In the last tutorial, we had seen some basics about activity. I'll come back to activity afterwards, after getting what do we mean by view. See, I'm going step by step. Set content view is there, but set content view, it is demanding me the view. Before using any view, we need to understand what do you mean by view. First thing, we need to understand what do you mean by view. Let's start discussing the view. Right, let me type view over here so that I can directly get access to the documentation of the view. See, I'm tapping control over here and control, and I'm just hovering my cursor on that class and say tap. It will take you to the documentation of that. Make sure that whenever you are downloading the SDK, at that time you have ticked download the sources of the Android. If you don't have source, you cannot see this thing. So whenever you download the documentation, make sure that you are going to tick that documentation, right, so that you can see like this. Now view, we are just checking the view. It is from the package android.view.view. Remember that it is from the package android.view.view. Okay, now here you can say this class represents basic building block for user interface components. Remember that basic building block for user interface components. Whatever you can see on your screen, that is the view. Button, radio button, text box, spinner, right, toggle button, checkbox, whatever, absolutely whatever you can see on your screen, that is view by this thing. So documentation says this thing: basic building block for user interface components. A view occupies rectangular area on the screen, rectangular area on the screen, and responsible for drawing and event handling. If you want to note, you can note this definition of the view. So I am telling you in detailed definition of the view. View, whatever you see on your screen, that is view. Whatever you see on your screen, that is nothing but what view is. View is rectangular block on your screen that is responsible for drawing and event handling. Right, okay. Now view is the base class for all the widgets. Right, now what do you mean by widget? See, if I'm going to type edit text over here, I'm just typing it for going into the documentation, nothing more than that. Edit text, right? See, edit text is nothing but the text box from the package widget, android.widget, right? So they are talking about that widget. Now not that widget that the word you use like in the Android words, widgets, right? Not that. So it is about, they are talking about the views itself. Right, see, a view occupies a rectangular area on the screen and is responsible for drawing and event handling. Very, very important, drawing and event handling. View is base class for all the widgets. Widgets are nothing but UI components which are used to create the interactive UI components itself. Here they have defined what do you mean by widgets, which are used to create the interactive UI components like the button, text view. Okay, now the view group is the subclass. View group is the subclass of the view, right, which is for the layouts, which are invisible containers that hold another views, or and called as view groups, are the invisible containers called as layout that hold another views. So view can be visible component or visible widget on your screen, or invisible container called as layout that is going to hold another views, right? So every view group or the layout is having its own layout properties, right? Its own layout properties. Remember that every view would be having its own layout properties, right? Okay, now this is about something called as view, right? This is something called as view. Let's get something about the view. So here I would be having view, something like this, view, right? Below the view there are widgets, means edit text, then text box, then button, then radio button, etc. Radio button and etc. All these are views. They are extending to the view class. They are extending to the view class. Okay, so these are the visible ones. These are the widget. There are invisible ones also, right? There are invisible ones also. You can say relative layout, linear layout, table layout, then grid layout, then frame layout, etc. Many layouts are there. All these are extending to the view with having their own layout properties. And remember that all these things are not directly extending to the view, but they are extending to something called as view group. They are extending to something called as view group, and view group extends view. So all this extends view group and view group extends view. Make sure that this is something about the view hierarchy, right? One thing is sure, all these are visible ones, all these are visible widgets, and all these are invisible containers. All these are what you can say invisible containers. They have called as containers because they hold another views. They hold another views. Remember about this thing. So this is a little bit about the view and the view hierarchy. In the next tutorial I am going to explain how we are going to create the views, what things you would be needing to creating the views. So make sure that you are watching tutorials and keep watching to learn the Android.